Kevin McCarthy, this is lawmakers reacting to Zelensky's address.
Yes. The entire time, President Biden always said it would be the sanctions afterwards. And then when the sanctions came, he said it'd take months to work. The Ukrainian people cannot wait months. The world cannot wait months and we sit by and watch innocent people being murdered. With that, let me turn it over to our whip. Thank you.
This is Steve.
President Zelensky just gave an incredibly powerful address to Congress. And I think people got to see once again what we've been seeing for weeks, and that is just why President Zelensky is inspiring the people of Ukraine and people all around the world who are rallying behind these strong, incredibly tough people during a brutally difficult invasion by Putin. When President Zelensky showed that video, you really got to see firsthand the sheer brutality of what Putin is doing inside Ukraine. It was very difficult to watch. It was heartbreaking, but it shows you that there's nothing less than genocide going on in Ukraine by Putin and his army. And so as Zelensky made a plea to the United States, to President Biden, he's continued to reiterate that the people of Ukraine just want more tools to be able to defend their country, especially right now to be able to control the sky. And that's why getting these MiGs in immediately is so critical. The longer President Biden waits trying to figure out excuses to not offend Putin, it's costing lives in Ukraine. He's got to make that happen. It's a plea Zelensky continued to make, as well as a plea for other things that I think the American people want to do to give them the tools that they need to defend their country. So as we look where we are, this is another opportunity for America to step up too and take away Putin's leverage on energy. There's no reason that Putin should be pocketing hundreds of millions of dollars a day by selling oil to America and the United States when we could cut that off right now by opening up our reserves, opening up areas that have been closed by President Biden.
We have cut off all Russian energy, oil and gas products coming in the United States, so I don't quite understand what Kevin McCarthy is and Stellantis is talking
have the tools to defend themselves against what Putin's doing. Now turn it over to our conference chair, Lisa.
The American people stand strongly with the people of Ukraine. The speech we just heard from President Zelensky was inspiring and talked about a leader who has risen to a catastrophic challenge and a catastrophic crisis in his country. He outlined the fact that this is the most significant national security crisis in Europe since the end of World War II. The stakes could not be higher. This administration has been far too slow, not only in their implementation of sanctions, but the lack of completeness of sanctions.
So we just got a preview of what is going to accelerate over the next 24 hours.
Oh, absolutely.
Which is this. Scalise, he did it subtly. It's going to become more overt. Excuse my mouse can't work this morning. We're going to get a narrative from not all Republicans, but the Republicans who really are going to make this super political. The narrative is going to be, we aren't effectively helping Ukraine because Biden doesn't want to upset Putin, which is a mirror of the accusations that were thrown at President Trump, that President Trump didn't want to ruffle Putin's feathers with anything, and now they're going to seize upon this to cast the same aspersions on President Biden, which maybe there's truth to that we would be doing more and Biden doesn't want to ruffle his feathers. But the problem is now it becomes about political wins instead of figuring out the best way to help these people in Ukraine.
A little different take on this. First of all, the comparison between President Trump and Joe Biden in terms of being pro-Russian and doesn't want to ruffle feathers. Here, it's he doesn't want to ruffle feathers. President Trump was an out-and-out supporter of Putin. Straight out. Refused to recognize U.S. intelligence agencies. Matter of fact, called our intelligence agencies liars. I believe Putin. I think that was a quote. I believe Putin. You're not hearing that at all. And it did become political. I mean, for this to become a political shot. And then, yes, the United States should cut off, it did cut off all purchase of Russian energy sources. And what was not mentioned, I think that's really important to mention, is what Zelensky called for are the sanctions across the board. Implicit in that is also cut off Russian sales of energy. And our cutoff of Russian energy sources is a drop in the bucket for us. We have no problem in terms of replacing that. It's those countries in Europe that rely 100% on Russian oil and gas. What do you do about them? Do you tell the citizens of Moldova, for example, you have to join our team and you have to destroy your economy? Literally, destroy your economy by cutting off the sole energy that comes. It's like the United States being asked to cut off the grid 100%. We'll show them, and how do we show them? Well, we put that light switch on, nothing happens.
Not to mention they've got hundreds of thousands of refugees, so they just up their population by hundreds of thousands of people.
Millions, actually. Poland is millions too.
Yes.
We're getting 3 million refugees now, and Russia has allowed these corridors of humanitarian exodus, and that's fairly good news. And so the peace talks, and that's in quotes, seem to be moving at least in a slight positive direction. And all in all, I give President Zelensky an A+ on this. Even knowing what he was going to say, truly an A. Whoever put that together, the video, and I'm assuming it's under the control of Zelensky. I mean, he's the one that says, you do this and you do that, and I'll listen to that advisor. Just extraordinary. It did its job. Now, will there be a no-fly zone? There will not. Are there going to be MiGs sold to Ukraine or transferred to Ukraine by Poland? I don't know where they're going with that, because they're Soviet-era MiGs. I mean, they're 50 years old versus an ultra-modern Russian Air Force. So, I don't know, and I'm going to go back to my point. I think what the President Zelensky is doing, anything he can to start the war between the West and Russia.
That's a very, I get what you're saying.
I think it's happening.
I don't, the way you're characterizing it
A little cynical.
makes it, yes, because there's a flavor. Go ahead, take the break.
We'll take a
please,
break.
take the break.
Yeah, we'll take a break and then come back and maybe we'll finish that up and then go into handle on the news. Do a little bit of that before we start the rest of the program. Jennifer, we're going to hear from you live from the KFI 24-hour newsroom.
Just recapping, Ukrainian President Zelensky has addressed a joint session of the U.S. Congress this morning. He cited Pearl Harbor and the 9/11 attacks in an appeal for help against Russia. The Senate's trying to end the travel mask mandate early. 8 Democrats joined Republicans in voting to no longer wear a mask on planes, trains, and buses. The measure now heads to the House, where it is not expected to pass. And baseball fans in New York might not see their favorite stars take the field. Players who aren't vaccinated against COVID-19 cannot take part in home games. We'll get a look at your drive in just a moment.
When you're bidding on your home or something for your home, flooring, windows, replacing roofs, you don't just go with one company. You get multiple bids. So why wouldn't you do that when you're refinancing or buying your home, one of the largest purchases you'll ever make, and just go to one place? It makes no sense. So Mark Tice of HMS Capital recommends you apply with his company, of course, and other lenders at the same time. Let them duke it out. You win, you get the lowest interest rate. It just works. And HMS Capital is the only lender I know that actually encourages you to do this. They're that confident you can get you the best deal. Oh, and if you think calling companies to see what their rates are, that does nothing. You have to apply to compare. No appraisal or application fees with HMS Capital. I've known Mark for over 16 years. 2 mortgages I've done with HMS Capital, so easy for me to recommend them. Call 833-255-5698, 833-255-5698. Visit hmscapital.com.
HMS Capital Funding is a DBA of Golden Empire, NMLS ID number 2437. HMS Capital is licensed by the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation and is a California Residential Mortgage Lending Act. License number 0130360. Equal housing lender.
SoCal weather from KFI. It's a sunny day ahead with highs from the low 70s at the beaches to right at 80 inland. This report is brought to you by calhope.org. From the Southern California Toyota Dealers Traffic Center, let's go places. Jeff Baugh, take it away.
You betcha. Good morning. Boy, we got a little bit of everything here this morning. As I speak to you, we're over the 101 Ventura Freeway coming up on Woodman here. We've been flying east and west, kind of trapped in the valley for the moment, but the volume is going up. Here's the good news. In between the 405 and the 101 on both sides of this 101. It's getting busy, but all lanes are open. South 405 is really building quickly, but so far you're okay in West LA. Want to give you this a serious wind advisory, really, but mostly the West End, Fernando Valley, and the Newhall Pass. So watch it if you're up there. Stuff blowing all over the place. And finally, northbound 5 going up towards the 210. There's been a crash. We're trying to get up there. More coming up, hopefully. Jeff KFI and the windy skies.
The more we learn about COVID-19, the more questions and worries we have. CalHope can help with free COVID-19 emotional support. Call 833-317-4673 or live chat at calhope.org today.
This report is sponsored by Whole Foods Market. Save on your go-to ingredients at Whole Foods Market. Get animal welfare certified 80% lean ground beef for $4.49 a pound through March 22nd, plus an extra 10% off for Prime members while supplies last. See more on the Whole Foods Market app.
College basketball! Oh, bring me more college basketball!
And now, the top 5 reasons to visit Morongo. Number 5.
Because where else can you watch all 67 college ball games in 13 days with big screens everywhere and have this much fun?
Number 4.
The one and only Patti LaBelle, live May 7th. Get your tickets now.
3.
Fresh Fruit Giveaway. Get a French press and mixing frother when you earn 500 points on your rewards card, the 21st or 22nd.
And the number 2.
It's Oasis Pool Party Time! Get access to the pool, free slot play, and the lucky hat when you book a room. Call 888-MORONGO now.
And the number 1 reason.
Mercado Central is here. El Camal and Pescado are here. Prime Cuts, Tequilas, and Sweet Things are here. The marketplace is here.
Morongo Casino Resort and Spa. Morongo. Good times.
Did you know your old ugly driveway or patio can actually earn you money? I'm Larry Green of System Pavers. During our free demolition event, we'll demolish and haul away your old materials and give you an instant cash recycling credit. This could save you thousands, but you must call now at 800-PAVE-004. That's 800-PAVE-004, 800-PAVE-004, or systempavers.com.
All orders must be placed by March 31st. See website for full details. Contractor's license 661575. As the country bounces back from COVID and mask mandates are lifted, your business needs a lift too. Promote your company right here, right now. Radio ads connect with 93% of Americans every week. That's more than Google, more than Facebook, more than TV. In fact, radio reaches 20% more millennials than TV. Want more of the people you want to talk to all in one place? Visit iHeartAdvertising.com and get AM and FM working for you. That's iHeartAdvertising.com.
There's a lot of COVID info out there, but not all of it's true. So it's important to remember the facts. Do COVID-19 vaccines give people the virus? Nope. It's actually the opposite. Vaccines teach our cells how to fight COVID-19. And just like other vaccines, COVID-19 boosters help keep our immunity strong. Share the facts, not the virus. Find a vaccine near you at myturn.ca.gov. Brought to you by the California Department of Public Health.
I'm attorney Darren Kavanoki from 1-800-NO-CUFFS. Can you do the alphabet backwards? Z, Y, X, W, V. Yeah, try doing that by the side of the road. So if you get pulled over, don't wing it. Call us at 1-800-NO-CUFFS.
Has your business been the target of an ADA non-compliance lawsuit? Then there are 2 calls to make: your attorney and RCOR, the ADA compliance and certification experts. Go to ADAgurus.com, ADAgurus.com.
He said the toughest team they ever played was the U.S. Army. Because they were losing by 38 and they were playing every down as if it was tied. Like playing against 11 fire hydrants that are all going off at the same time. He goes, I've never been hit so hard by a guy who's down by 38 points with 10 seconds left. The Tim Conway Jr. Show. That's the Army. Yeah. And that's why, the United States is good at what they do.
Weeknights at 6 on KFI.
candle here on a Wednesday, March 16th. We just heard President Zelensky of Ukraine addressing the U.S. Congress. Effectively what we thought he was going to say with some spin to it. One, he invoked Martin Luther King, Mount Rushmore, 9/11. I mean, everything that is meant to tug at the heartstrings of Americans. And then ran a video, which I wasn't expecting. Did anybody expect a video?
No.
It was a propaganda video. It was about a quote, commercial for Ukraine and the rest of the world joining the fight. And the fight consisted of two different things. Number one, sanctions, or number one, the no-fly zone. He is, from the beginning, he is fanatic about the no-fly zone. And as I said, military experts saying, the MiGs aren't that important to this fight. It's tanks, it's artillery, and I know I keep on saying that, but I'm just fascinated because I think it goes far deeper than that, in that President Zelensky wants the Western world to join the fight, and I mean the fight, not just sanctions. And a no-fly zone would guarantee a fight with Russia, because Putin has said outright, no-fly zone, we're at war. And so there was that, and that video was about as effective as anything I have seen. Little children getting massacred, buildings being destroyed.
That was the part for me, child after child.
Yeah, that's if they really pulled children being buried.
Yes.
Children that were grievously wounded
In the hospital.
It was
the pictures of those orphanages was
that were hit.
I mean, 3-4 dozen babies just sitting there all together.
And interspersed with Ukrainians at parks and happy and dancing and effectively saying, well, this was the whole point, saying this is what we should be. This is what we will be. Let's get rid of those bastard Russians. It was about as effective as anything I've seen. Of course, the audience was very receptive. You had Congress giving a standing ovation and clapping, and then you had Minority Leader McCarthy, who's probably going to be Speaker with the next round of elections, talking about and parroting what everybody thought in that room, saying that we're on the side of Ukraine, the heroism, which all of it is true, of President Zelensky and the leadership that he has shown, and the heroism of the Ukrainian people, and said we're willing to die for it. We're willing to die for our freedom.
He has to go for the emotion. He can only get more help by appealing to emotion, because if you put on your cold, clinical, tactical hat, the no-fly zone is an extremely thorny idea.
Oh, very thorny.
He and people who want the no-fly zone kind of act like, just impose a no-fly zone. What's the big deal? Just do it. A no-fly zone's only existed for about 30 years. Anyway, we started it in Iraq. There's only been 3 no-fly zones.
And all of them very successful.
Yes, all of them accomplished most of what they wanted. Iraq, Bosnia, and Libya, when there was that uprising against Gaddafi, and there was a brief no-fly zone over there. It's not something that's used constantly, and it's not something that has a long historical record. But the problem is, as you pointed out, Putin said if you impose a no-fly zone, it's war. Okay.
Same thing with troops on the ground.
Troops on the ground is a war. Now, troops on the ground is a proactive move. So I get that. A no-fly zone is like an administrative declaration, no planes. It doesn't say no Russian planes. It's a ban on Russian planes. It's no planes.
Right.
Nobody. It's egalitarian.
Hang on. It would be NATO planes flying over Ukraine airspace
only to enforce the no-fly zone, meaning you can have a NATO plane if NATO's going to get involved enforcing But another NATO plane that isn't there to enforce it is not allowed.
That is correct.
Nobody's planes are allowed except whoever's going to enforce it. So here's the thing. We declare it. He says we're at war. But nobody's fired a shot yet. So does he say the declaration of a no-fly zone is equal to the firing of shots on us by you, and therefore if we shoot it's in defense? Or does he have the ability to justify shooting first? We say no-fly zone, he bombs Poland.
Or
which way does that go?
He invokes a no-fly zone over
who?
Ukraine, which right now he's successful.
Well, we already would have those. So it's like, dude, there's already a no-fly zone.
Yeah, that's
the problem is in the enforcement, and the fact is, do you believe if we said no-fly zone, he would see the writing on the wall, he would realize, okay, that's how serious they are, I need to unwind this thing.
No.
Or does he get provocative and send a Russian plane in there, in which case, if we're not willing to enforce it, he wins. If we enforce it, now we do have an active hostility between us or a NATO partner and Russia, and then all bets are off because he would at that point be able to say, you shot down a Russian plane. And we would say, well, you went into the no-fly zone. You say, I don't care. You shot down a Russian plane. Here come the bombs on Poland.
And we don't know. That's a great question.
For talking. You know, almost every war ends with talking.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So this kind of a war, it can only end with talking.
Yep. And that's the reason that Ukraine is not part of NATO and is desperately to be part of NATO because of Putin's view of Ukraine, and the Western and Europe and all the NATO countries are scared to death of getting into an altercation with Putin. That's why. That's why no fly. That's why there's. That's why no boots on the ground, and even to the point. I think it's going to go to the point where even supplying military aid is going to push Putin into saying that one you can't do that either. And does the Western world do they run scared? All right, coming up, could Putin actually fail? I mean, could Putin be brought down, and especially under these circumstances? This is KFI AM 640, live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
Whether it's happening worldwide or in Southern California, the 24-hour KFI newsroom is on it.
KFI.
KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
Powerful speech. I'm Jennifer Jones-Lee, live from the KFI 24-hour newsroom. Ukrainian President Zelensky got a standing ovation and enthusiastic cheering as he was welcomed to the U.S. Congress via a video address today. House Speaker Pelosi introduced him. Zelensky spoke through a female translator and called on the U.S. to do more.
To create a no-fly zone over Ukraine to save people. Is this too much to ask?
Zelensky played a powerful video montage of the invasion of his country, showing the human suffering and devastation. A slide at the end of the show of the video had a message that read, "Close the sky over Ukraine." Then speaking in English, President Zelensky said his country was standing up for human rights around the world.
For the right to live decently and to die when your time comes, and not when it's wanted by someone else, by your neighbor.
Zelensky also thanked the U.S. and President Biden for all the help that has been sent so far. A new report from the LAPD's Inspector General shows close to 40% of officers who shot people in violation of policy were never disciplined. The LA Police Commission says it will review the report and wants to publish disciplinary actions of officers on a monthly basis. From 2015 to 2020, 66 officers were involved in shootings. 1 was fired, 13 were reprimanded, 27 were not disciplined, and most of the rest were suspended. A new report from the LA County Probation Oversight Commission shows a poor learning environment inside the county's juvenile halls.
The 11-page report outlines 4 key problems, including classrooms that lack a culture of learning, the quality of instruction is far below expectations, and school leaders who lack the skills to improve conditions. The commission says it spent months observing classes and interviewing staff and students. Some of the recommendations for improvement include the introduction of cultural relevance into the classroom, more project-based learning, cooperative learning, and an arts curriculum. Steve Gregory, Kfi News.
A resolution to end Governor Newsom's COVID-19 state of emergency has been voted down by a committee.
If SCR 5 had made it through this committee, it certainly would have had a tough road ahead of.
State Senator Melissa Melendez says, however, she thinks it would have sent a message to other Democrats that now is the time to end the order. A spokesperson for the governor's office says the limited orders under the state of emergency are critical to combating the pandemic. They say just 5% of the emergency order provisions are still in place. Pfizer has asked the FDA and CDC to approve a 4th booster dose of their COVID-19 vaccine for seniors. The company says data from Israel indicates older people would benefit. Authorities say the vaccinations continue to offer strong protections against severe illness, but they haven't held up just as well as they would have liked them to against milder infections like those caused by the Omicron mutation. If any dudes want to tell women or people that they're pregnant, now there's a new emoji for that.
Apple has released about 100 new faces, gestures, and objects to its latest digital update. Most of the new emojis, though, are skin tone variations, so there's actually 37 new ones. Things like a car wheel, a person wearing a crown, and a troll could work for some. Other emojis, including an empty mason jar, liquid pouring out of a jar, and a pregnant dude may need some creativity to use. A lip bite emoji could be scary or sexy. The disco ball is expected to be a big hit. Hands making a heart has been a thing in Korea for years, but it's now an emoji. And shaking hands have been around, but interracial shaking hands are new to the emoji crew. Michael Crozier, KFI News.